The mockery of humanity expanded. The twin suns of Kerith burned high in the pale green sky, casting long shards of light through the glass towers of the city. Their glow turned the crystal spires into spears of fire that seemed to pierce the heavens. Skimmers hummed overhead, sleek transports sliding along invisible lanes in perfect silence. It was a city of power, of wealth, of pride. And to men like Jace Arlen, it was also a cage. He walked the crowded market streets with his head low, his work boots scuffing against the polished tiles that were never meant for human feet. His coveralls were stained with oil and soot, the gray fabric torn at the knees. A pouch of scavenged machine parts hung from his belt, the metal clinking with each step. He kept his shoulders square, his eyes forward. The Zaire soldiers spotted him anyway. They always did. 3 of them leaned against a vendor's stall, their armor glimmering silver blue. Their helmets had peeled back like insect shells, exposing pale, ridged faces and faceted eyes that caught the suns like shards of ice. Their mandibles clicked in amusement as Jace passed. "Well, look at this," one buzzed, his voice a dry rattle. A human stray, wandering too far from his junk heaps. The other 2 soldiers laughed, their laughter high and sharp, like blades scraping glass. AC, he kept walking. "Tell us, Scrape Worlder," the second soldier called. "Do your kind even understand what a city is? Or do you think all this," he swept a clawed hand across the towers, "is just a mountain of shiny garbage for you to dig through?" The crowd stirred. Alien merchants and citizens paused in their dealings, some with amusement, others with a flicker of pity. None stepped forward. No one ever did. A smaller figure hurried to Jace's side, almost tripping over her long robe. Serenia. She was barely 20 by Velari standards. Her skin the smooth gray of river stone, faint blue light glowing in the cracks along her temples. The light brightened when she was nervous, and now it pulsed fast, like a heartbeat. "Don't answer them," she whispered, clutching his arm. "Just keep walking." Jace's jaw tightened. His eyes, dark, lined with exhaustion, didn't waver. He'd learned long ago that showing fear only made the game worse. But the soldiers weren't finished. The tallest one stepped forward, blocking Jace's path with the butt of his spear. The weapon's tip glowed with a faint crackle of plasma, buzzing close to Jace's chest. "Say something funny for us, human," the soldier sneered. "Or are you too stupid to form words?" The crowd grew silent. Serenia's glowing eyes darted around, searching for an escape. Jace stood very still. He could feel the heat from the plasma tip through his shirt, could hear the faint clicking of the soldier's mandibles. The insult wasn't new. The laughter wasn't new. None of it was new, but something inside him stirred all the same. His voice was quiet, almost calm. "One day," he said, "the laughter will stop." The soldier's mandibles spread in a grin. He shoved Jace hard with the shaft of his spear, forcing him a step back. "Oh, a threat," the soldier hissed. "What will you do, human? Throw a wrench at us? Bite us with your blunt little teeth?" The others burst into harsh, buzzing laughter. Serenia tugged at Jace's sleeve. "Please, don't." He said nothing. He only turned away, guiding her, with a steady hand on her shoulder. Behind them, the soldiers hurled more insults, their voices echoing through the streets. "Scrap world," "dirt crawler," "ghost of a dead planet." The words followed Jace all the way down the market road, echoing louder than the chatter of vendors, louder than the hum of air skimmers. He'd heard them his whole life, and he endured, because he knew something they didn't, a secret older than the Dominion's rule. Night fell over Kerith in shades of violet and red. The 2 suns sank behind the horizon, leaving the city awash in light from floating lanterns and neon signs. Soldiers still patrolled, their armor glowing faintly in the dark, but the laughter was gone now. The markets emptied. The streets grew. Quieter dot in the lower districts, away from the glittering towers. Jace slipped into a narrow workshop built beneath a collapsed bridge. The smell of oil and ozone filled the air. Broken machine parts lay stacked on benches, wires, and conduits, hanging like vines. A faded flag of earth edges burned, colors worn hung crooked on the wall. Jace shut the door, pulled the bolts, and exhaled for the first time all day. He set his pouch of scavenged parts on the table, then reached beneath a hidden floor panel. His fingers closed around a cracked datapad, its surface scratched and dimmed out with a whispered code. He activated it. The workshop filled with blue light as a hologram flickered into being. A ship, colossal, angular. Its hull bristled with strange conduits that shimmered as if half made of shadow. It flickered in and out of reality, outlines shifting, like it was caught between two worlds. Jace's throat tightened. He traced the projection with trembling fingers. The Aegis Eternum, Earth's last hope, not destroyed in the war, not lost, hidden, phased out of existence, concealed in the forgotten dimension where no Dominion scanner could ever reach. 10 years. 10 years he had hunted for the keys to wake it. 10 years of smuggling fragments of code, of bribing merchants for old human data shards, of repairing ancient tech with nothing but junk and stubbornness. 10 years of pretending to be nothing but a scavenger. And now, the ship was almost his dot. The door creaked. Jace's heart leapt. He killed the hologram instantly, shoving the datapad into his jacket. Serenia stood in the doorway, clutching a small lantern. Her glowing eyes widened as she stepped inside, seeing the fading shimmer of blue light on the walls. What was that? She whispered. Jace's silence stretched long. Finally, he spoke. Hope, Serenia frowned, confused. Hope for what? You're talking about a warship, aren't you? Humans don't. You can't build things like that. Not anymore. His gaze was steady, burning. We did, before Earth fell, and we hid one, waiting for the day it would be needed. Serenia's hands trembled on the lantern. She opened her mouth to reply, and then the sirens wailed. The entire district shook with the sound. Red lights flooded the sky, painting the towers with blood. A Dominion broadcast crackled from every loudspeaker. Attention, citizens! Human insurgents have been discovered in the outer districts. All humans are to be detained for questioning. Non-compliance will be punished by death. Serenia's lantern flickered in her grip. Her glowing eyes reflected the crimson light of the sirens. She turned to Jace, her voice a whisper of horror. They're coming for you. Jace shoved the datapad into his pack, slinging it across his shoulder. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. The Dominion had mocked humanity for centuries. They laughed at the weakness of the species they conquered. They erased Earth, thinking its memory would fade. But they didn't know what Jace knew. They didn't know about the Aegis Eternum, waiting in the dark between worlds. Jace grabbed Serenia's hand. His voice was firm, unshakable. Run? Asterisk, the hunt begins. The sirens cut through the night like knives. Red light pulsed across Kareth's lower districts, flashing from spire to spire, staining the market stalls and alleyways in blood. The Dominion never sounded the alarm for long. It meant their soldiers were already moving. Jace and Serenia bolted from the workshop, shadows racing through twisting alleys, slick with rain from the cooling towers above. Faster! Jace hissed, pulling her along. His boots splashed through puddles, his pack slamming against his back with every step. Serenia stumbled, her robe tangling at her feet. Jace, wait. He didn't. He couldn't. He dragged her into the shadows, beneath an old tram arch, just as the air above them split with the thunder of engines. 3 Dominion carriers swept low over the rooftops, searchlights blazing. There, Halls gleamed with silver-blue armor, the Zaire insignia flashing like a brand of ownership across the night. Soldiers leapt from their open bays, gravity harnesses glowing as they landed in precise formation. Serenia pressed herself against the wall, her glowing eyes wide with terror. "They'll find us. Not if we move smart," Jace muttered. He scanned the alleys ahead, brain whirring through routes he'd memorized years ago. The Dominion didn't just mock humans. They studied them, hunted them, drove them into corners. Like vermin. But Jace had been preparing for this day, for the moment when he would stop running. A drone buzzed down the street, its single red eye sweeping in arcs. Its sensors hummed, the air sizzling faintly as it scanned for heat signatures. Jace cursed under his breath. He yanked Serenia into a collapsed storefront, shoving her beneath a broken counter. He followed, holding her close as the drones. Red light passed just inches from their hiding place. Serenia trembled. He could feel it in her thin shoulders. The drone paused. Its light wavered back. Jace reached into his pouch, fingers closing around a metal shard, a broken capacitor he'd palmed earlier. He held his breath, waited until the drone's eye steadied on their corner. Then he threw the shard across the street. It clanged against a rusted pipe. The drone swiveled instantly, scanning the noise. Then, with a hiss, it floated toward the distraction, red light moving away from them. Jace exhaled, grabbing Serenia's hand. "Move." They slipped back into the alleys, weaving deeper into the ruins where even Dominion patrols hesitated to tread. The district called the Shatterline was a graveyard. Once it had been a Velari, temple quarter, filled with soaring domes and crystal gardens. When the Dominion invaded, air bombardments shattered it into a maze of broken towers and half-buried halls. Jace knew every turn. He had scavenged here since boyhood, pulling copper from melted beams, scraping rust from half-fused machines. Now it would hide him. Serenia gasped as they reached an old stairwell leading down into the dark. "Why here?" "Because they won't." "Follow," Jace said. His voice was grim. "Not if they know what's buried underneath." They descended into the shadows. Dust rained from the cracked ceiling. The air grew colder, damper, heavy with the scent of ancient stone. Serenia's eyes glowed faintly blue, casting just enough light for them to see. This is Velari's sacred ground. You said we were just running." "We are," Jace sighed. His voice echoed in the emptiness. "But if I don't get to the anchor site, everything ends here." Serenia froze on the stair. "Anchor site?" Jace turned, meeting her wide, glowing eyes. For years he had kept his secret locked behind his teeth, fearing betrayal, fearing that even whispers would bring the Dominion's wrath. But now the walls were closing, the soldiers were hunting, and the Aegis Eternum was their only hope. He pulled the cracked datapad from his jacket. Blue light spilled into the stairwell as the hologram of the ship flickered to life again, vast, angular, flickering as if made of shadow. Serenia's breath caught. "The Aegis Eternum," Jace whispered. "It was built in the last days of Earth, too powerful to hide in normal space. So our engineers phased it out, anchored it in the forgotten dimension. Untouchable, invisible." Serenia's eyes darted between the hologram and Jace's face. "And the anchor site is here, beneath Velari ruins?" Jace nodded. "Your people built temples with resonant stones. The engineers used that energy to mask the dimensional field. The Dominion never found it. They thought they erased everything. But they missed this." She shook her head slowly, disbelief warring. With awe. "You've been planning this. For how long?" 10 years, Jace said. His voice was steady, low. "Every part I've scavenged, every code I've stolen. All of it to bring the ship back." Before Serenia could reply, the stairwell shook with a deep rumble. Dust rained from the ceiling. Serenia gasped. "They're shelling the ruins." "No," Jace said grimly. He pointed upward. "They're landing." Heavy footsteps echoed above Zare's soldiers, descending the stair, their mandibles clicking in the dark. Jace stuffed the datapad away. His mind raced. He had no weapons, only scraps and tools. The Dominion had plasma rifles and armor that could shrug off anything short of a blast charge. But he had the ruins. And he had desperation. He pulled Serenia deeper into the corridor, their steps echoing on the stone. The walls here glowed faintly with old Villari crystal, cracked and dim but still alive. Ahead, an ancient door loomed etched with Villari runes, half collapsed from bombardment. Jace pressed his hand against it, feeling the cold stone. "This is it?" he whispered. Serenia's eyes widened. "The anchor site?" Before he could answer, shouts rang behind them. Dominion voices, harsh and buzzing. Light speared through the corridor search beams, cutting the dark. Jace shoved Serenia behind the door's remains, frantically pulling at his pouch. His fingers found 2 metal rods in a coil of wire. He twisted them together, sparks flying. The first soldier rounded the corner. His faceted eyes glowed red in the beam on his rifle. Jace hurled the sparking coil into the puddle at the soldier's feet. The water erupted in blue light. Electricity danced upward, crawling over the soldier's armor. He convulsed, shrieking. As his rifle clattered to the ground, the others shouted, raising their weapons. "Run!" Jace bellowed, yanking Serenia through the broken doorway. Inside, the air was colder still. The chamber opened wide, lined with cracked Villari crystals that pulsed faintly with inner light. At the center stood a great stone pillar ancient, scarred, but humming with hidden power. Serenia's eyes widened. "This is older than I thought?" Jace pulled the datapad, slamming a shard of crystal into its port. The hologram shifted, beams of light locking onto the pillar. The crystals in the walls flared to life, glowing bright for the first time in centuries. The air trembled. The stone pillar cracked, lines of blue fire racing across its surface. The floor shook as the resonance built, the chamber vibrating with impossible energy. Serenia clutched Jace's arm. "It's waking up," he nodded. His voice was a whisper. "We're opening the door." Behind them, Dominion soldiers stormed into the chamber. The commander stepped forward, his armor gleaming brighter than the rest. His mandibles clicked as he raised his rifle. "Human!" he barked. His voice echoed like a blade. "Shut it down or die where you stand." Jace stared at him, the pillar's blue light reflecting in his dark eyes. For centuries, the Dominion had mocked humans. They called them weak, scavengers, ghosts of a dead planet. But tonight, in the forgotten ruins, the mockery would end. The pillar split open with a deafening crack, a vortex of shimmering light swirling into existence. The air howled, pulling at their clothes, rattling the chamber's walls dot beyond the rift. Shapes flickered in the void. The outline of a ship, vast and waiting, got the aegis ETERNUM. The forgotten dimension, the chamber roared like a storm. Blue light tore from the cracked pillar, lashing out in arcs that seared the walls. The air twisted, folding in on itself, until the rift yawned open, a swirling vortex of shadows and starlight. Jace staggered back, shielding his eyes. He had seen schematics, read fragments of logs, but nothing prepared him for the raw violence of it. The forgotten dimension wasn't a door. It was a wound cut through reality itself. Through the rift, he glimpsed a sky that wasn't sky at all. Darkness stretched forever, shot through with rivers of silver light. Fragments of shattered worlds drifted there, broken chunks of stone and metal, orbiting unseen anchors. And in the distance, massive, angular, half faded as though it couldn't decide if it was real, the aegis eternum. even flickering between existence and nothingness. The ship dwarfed everything around it. Its hull bristled with conduits that glowed like veins of fire. Energy rippled across its frame, bending the light. Around it, Serenia's glowing eyes widened. "It's alive." Jace's throat was dry. "No, it's waiting." Behind them, the Dominion commander snarled. "Fire!" Blasts scorched the chamber. Plasma bolts struck the walls, shattering old Velari crystals. Heat washed over Jace's face as he grabbed Serenia's wrist. They leapt into the rift. The world shattered. Jace felt himself ripped apart, stretched into threads of light. For one impossible heartbeat, he saw himself from every angle, past and future, collapsing into a single endless now. His breath was torn from his chest, his bones screaming with pressure. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. Asterisk, he slammed down on cold metal, gasping. Serenia collapsed beside him, trembling, her faint glow flickering wildly. They lay on a vast platform of steel, suspended in the void. Above them loomed the Aegis Eternum, its hull blotting out the silver rivers of the forgotten dimension. Ship stretched beyond sight, a fortress adrift in shadow. Every angle of its design was wrong, unsettling, as if the engineers had carved it from geometry that didn't belong in this universe. Its form flickered, edges smearing like smoke, only to snap back sharper than any blade. Serenia clutched Jace's sleeve, whispering, "How can something like this exist?" Jace's chest heaved. His eyes burned with awe and grief all at once. Because Earth refused to die quietly, he pushed himself up, scanning the platform. A narrow bridge led toward the ship's underside, where a docking bay pulsed faintly with energy. "We have to get inside," he said. Before, the rift behind them screamed. Dominion soldiers poured through, their armor sparking under the strain of the dimensional crossing. Some collapsed, writhing on the platform as their bodies struggled against the shift. Others rose, weapons ready, their faceted eyes burning with fury. The commander staggered through last, his silver armor scorched but intact, his mandibles spread in a hiss. "The human lies end here." Jace pulled Serenia to her feet. "Run!" The bridge was narrow, flanked by nothing but the abyss. Below, fragments of ruined worlds drifted lazily, chunks of stone and metal glowing faintly, as if lit by forgotten suns. Serenia's sandals slipped on the steel grating, but Jace dragged her forward, never letting go. Plasma blasts screamed. Past them, scorching holes in the walkway. One blast struck ahead, tearing the bridge apart in a spray of molten metal. Serenia froze at the gap, staring down into the endless void. "We can't," Jace didn't think. He tightened his grip on her hand and leapt. For a heartbeat, they flew weightless. The void swallowed them, silver rivers twisting below like serpents. Then Jace's boots slammed down on the far side. He staggered, almost slipping, but dragged Serenia with him, both collapsing hard onto the grating dot behind them. The Dominion soldiers scrambled to follow. A few leapt across the gap, claws scraping as they landed. Others weren't so lucky. One soldier misjudged, his scream vanishing as he tumbled into the dark. The commander landed flawlessly, rifle raised. "Go!" Jace shouted, pushing Serenia toward the docking bay. The bay door loomed before them, vast and seamless, glowing faintly as if breathing. Veins of blue light pulsed across its surface. Jace slammed his palm against the control panel. For a sickening second, nothing happened. Then the light shifted, scanning his DNA, his heart rate, his very breath. A deep voice rumbled from the walls, ancient and metallic, genetic signature confirmed. Lineage, Arlen. Access granted. The bay door split open with a grinding roar. Blue light spilled from. Within, washing over them in waves of cold, Serenia staggered back. "It knows you." Jace's chest tightened. My family, my bloodline. The engineers tied access to us. I didn't know if it would still work. Lucky it did, Serenia whispered. The commander's shout cut across the void. Stop them. Jace grabbed Serenia's arm, pulling. Her inside, the docking bay was vast and silent, lined with dormant fighters and scaffolds. Dust coated the floor, disturbed only by their footprints. The air tasted of cold metal and ozone dot above. Massive conduits pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. Serenia turned in a slow circle, whispering, It's like a city. Jace's voice was low, reverent. It's a fortress, built to carry. Earth's last stand. The bay doors shuddered as Dominion soldiers pounded against them. Jace sprinted toward a raised console at the bay's center. He slammed the datapad into its slot. The ship's system stirred, lights flickering, conduits humming louder. A voice filled the chamber again, clearer this time, deep and resonant. Command authorization required. State identity. Jace straightened, his voice steady. Jace. Arlen, descendant of Chief Engineer Kalen Arlen, requesting activation of the Aegis Eternum. The ship was silent. Then, slowly, authorization. Confirmed. The floor shook. Blue light roared through the conduits, spilling across the bay, like veins catching fire. The fighters along the walls flickered to life, their engines whining faintly. Serenia's eyes widened. You woke it? Jace's heart pounded. He almost smiled. No, we woke it. The bay doors exploded inward. Dominion soldiers stormed through, rifles blazing. Jace dove behind the console, dragging Serenia with him. Plasma bolts scorched the walls, sparks raining down. The commander stepped through the smoke, his rifle steady. His mandibles clicked with triumph. A ship this size cannot be flown by one man, human. You've only opened a tomb. Jace's fingers danced across the console. He didn't know half the symbols, but his blood knew the rhythm, passed down in fragments of memory and instinct. The ship's voice rumbled again. Warning. Dimensional instability detected. Rift collapse imminent. Serenia gasped. The doorway, if it closes while we're here. Jace's eyes snapped to hers. We'll be trapped forever, the commander sneered. Then die with your relic. He raised his rifle, and the Aegis Eternum spoke again, its voice deeper now. Alive, resonant with power. Intruders detected. Defensive systems engaged. Panels in the walls split open. Turrets unfolded, glowing with blue energy. The Dominion. Soldiers froze in horror. Then the ship fired. The bay lit up with searing blue beams. Soldiers were hurled screaming into the air, their armor cracking under the onslaught. The commander dived behind a fallen pillar, mandibles spread in a snarl. Jace seized Serenia's arm. We have to reach the bridge. The floor trembled beneath them as the Aegis stirred fully awake, shaking off decades of slumber. Lights blazed down the docking corridors. Engines pulsed deep in the hull. Serenia's voice shook. What if it can't hold? What if the rift, the ship's voice cut through, grim and absolute? Stabilization requires full activation. Proceed to command deck. Jace tightened his grip on Serenia's hand. Behind them, the Dominion commander roared above the chaos. Hunt them. The human cannot control it alone. Ahead, the corridor to the heart of the ship yawned open, glowing like the throat of some ancient beast. Jace's breath caught. For the first time in years, he felt something stir in his chest, something stronger than fear. Hope. He pulled Serenia forward. Then let's see if they're right. They ran into the heart of the Aegis Eternum, as the forgotten dimension screamed around them. Asterisk awakening the Aegis. The corridors of the Aegis Eternum stretched endlessly, carved from metal that gleamed. Like frozen starlight, blue conduits pulsed beneath the floor, spreading in veins toward the heart of the ship. Every step Jace and Serenia took seemed to stir the vessel further awake. The hum of energy grew louder, vibrations rumbling through their bones. Serenia's hand brushed the wall, her bioluminescent glow mingling with the ship's light. "It's alive," she whispered again, her voice trembling with awe. "I can feel it, like it's listening." Jace's jaw tightened. He didn't trust his voice, so he said nothing. He couldn't admit what he felt, that the ship was watching him, judging him. They emerged into a vast chamber, the command deck. The bridge was unlike anything Jace had ever seen, even in fragments of Earth's records. A single black chair stood at the center, facing a panoramic view of the forgotten dimension. Screens and holographic displays hovered in the air, flickering symbols shifting between human letters and alien glyphs. Above them, a crystal sphere rotated slowly, projecting silver threads into the air maps of dimensions, overlapping like knots in a web. Serenia gasped, stepping closer. "This is not just a ship. It's a world shaper." Jace's throat was dry. He sank into the central chair. The ship's voice boomed through the deck. "Command station occupied. Neural synchronization required. Initiating link." Metal tendrils unfolded from the chair, wrapping around his arms, spine, and skull. Jace gasped as fire lanced into his mind. Suddenly, he wasn't in the chair. He was everywhere. He felt the hull stretching beyond imagination, vast engines pulsing like a second heartbeat. He tasted the cold vacuum outside, the streams of silver rivers winding through the forgotten dimension. His mind brushed against weapons, shields, thrusters, all waiting for his thought. The ship spoke within him now, not aloud, but in his blood. Neural compatibility, 67%. Human lineage confirmed. Potential sufficient for limited control. Jace's teeth clenched. Limited control? One mind cannot bear the full load. You will fracture without augmentation. Serenia reached out, her hand trembling. "Jace, what's happening?" He forced a breath. It's linking with me, but I can't handle it alone." Serenia's glow flickered uneasily. "Then we share the burden." Before he could stop her, she stepped to the secondary console. Her fingers hovered over glyphs that pulsed to life as if recognizing her. The ship's voice shifted, acknowledging her presence. Auxiliary neural anchor detected. Non-human physiology compatible. Synchronization possible. Blue light wrapped around Serenia. Threads of energy weaving into her skin. She cried out softly, but her eyes flared brighter, her breath quickening. Jace's mind steadied. The crushing weight of the ship's systems eased, spread between them. He exhaled, whispering, You saved me." Her lips curved faintly. "Then don't waste it." The deck shuddered. Warning alarms blared in both human and alien tones. Dimensional. Breach detected. Foreign craft entering proximity. The viewport shifted, showing the rift tearing wider in the distance. Through it spilled Dominion warships, their angular forms shimmering as they forced themselves into the forgotten dimension. The largest, a dreadnought with jagged wings, led the charge. Its hull burned with crimson light. Serenia's voice tightened. "They followed us." Jace clenched his fists, and the ship responded. The Aegis turned, its colossal bulk shifting with a grace impossible for its size. Weapons pods unfolded along its flanks, glowing with energy. But the Dominion dreadnought was already locking weapons. "Warning," the ship's voice intoned calmly. "Shields offline. Primary systems dormant. Recommend limited engagement until activation cycle completes." Serenia gripped her console. "We can't fight them like this." Jace's jaw locked. "Then we buy time." The Dominion dreadnought fired. A beam of red energy lanced across the void, slamming into the Aegis's hull. The entire ship groaned, the deck vibrating beneath them. Jace felt the impact as a spike of pain behind his eyes, like someone driving a knife into his skull. He roared, forcing his mind to stabilize, divert auxiliary conduits to forward plating. He commanded instinctively. Blue light flared across the hull, absorbing part of the blast. The remainder rippled through the ship like fire across steel. Serenia gasped, clutching her chest as if she'd felt it too. "It hurts us when it's hurt." Jace's voice was grim. "Then we don't let it get hurt again." He reached deeper into the ship's systems, brushing against something vast and terrible. A weapon slumbering, waiting. Dimensional lance, partially charged. The words echoed in his skull like thunder. Jace's lips curled. "That'll do." The Aegis Eternum turned. Asterisk, its prow opened, splitting along hidden seams. Energy gathered. Within, bending the very fabric of the forgotten dimension. Rivers of silver light warped, streaming into the core of the weapon. The Dominion ships faltered, their formations breaking as they registered the impossible energy spike. The commander's voice shrieked across comms. "Destroy it before it fires." Swarm ships peeled off, racing toward the Aegis. Plasma fire raked across its hull. Jace and Serenia both cried out as the impact seared through their link. The ship groaned, metal screaming. The weapon reached full charge. Dimensional lance. "Ready," Jace's teeth bared. "Fire," the universe screamed. A beam of pure silver tore from the ship's core, a spear of light that ripped through the void. It struck the Dominion dreadnought dead center. For a moment, nothing. Then the dreadnought unraveled, torn apart as if every atom had been yanked in a different direction. Shards of its hull spiraled away, dissolving into nothing. The shockwave rippled across the forgotten dimension, scattering smaller ships like leaves in a storm. Serenia's eyes were wide with horror and awe. That wasn't a weapon. That was annihilation. Jace's breath came in ragged gasps. His body trembled, veins burning with borrowed power. It's Earth's last gift, a blade meant for gods. The surviving Dominion ships regrouped. Wary now, but their commander wasn't finished. Another wave of ships poured through the rift, dozens of them. Serenia's glow dimmed, exhaustion pulling at her features. "We can't keep firing that. It will kill us." Jace knew she was right. Even now his hands shook, his vision blurred. The lance had drained not just the ship, but them. The AI's voice cut through the haze. Rift stability compromised. Collapse imminent. Evacuation recommended. Jace's head snapped toward the viewport. The rift was trembling violently, edges folding inward. Cracks of blackness split the silver river's dot. If it collapsed with them inside, the Aegis would be sealed in this dimension forever. Serenia whispered, terrified. "Jace, we're trapped." The Dominion fleet surged forward, taking advantage of their weakness. Plasma fire lit the void, streaking toward the Aegis. Jace gritted his teeth, blood running from his nose, and in his skull, the AI spoke words that chilled into the core. There is one path to survival. Full dimensional drive activation. Warning. Probability of human neural collapse 96%. Jace's vision blurred. He saw Earth's ruins. He saw Serenia's desperate face. He saw the Dominion closing in. He forced a hoarse whisper. "Show me what I have to do." Through the fracture, the bridge shook. Alarms shrieking in every language Jace knew, and some he didn't. The rift was folding in on itself, edges snapping like the jaws of some vast beast. Dominion ships swarmed closer, streaks of plasma fire, hammering the Aegis Eternum's failing shields. Each strike reverberated through Jace's bones like hammers against his skull. He staggered, gripping the command chair as blood trickled from his nose. His vision swam. The AI's voice pressed coldly into his mind. Survival probability, Negligible. Activate dimensional drive to escape. Neural cost, extreme. Serenia's glow flickered as she clung to her console, fear in her wide eyes. Jace, don't. It said it will kill you. He laughed bitterly, tasting iron in his mouth. Better me than both of us. She shook her head violently, her voice breaking. No, you think I will watch you burn while I live? We share this like we shared the lance. If the ship kills you, it kills me too. For a heartbeat, silence. Only the groaning of the ship, the screams of battle outside, the thunder of his pulse. Jace's voice came low, ragged. Then we make it live with us, together. The ship obeyed. Tendr. Oz surged from the chair, embedding deeper into Jace's spine and skull. Searing light pierced his vision, flooding his mind with rivers of raw data. His scream tore the air apart, but he refused to let go. Beside him, Serenia cried out as blue filaments lashed into her body, her bioluminescent glow flaring like a dying star. Her voice rose in song-like notes of pain, alien and haunting, resonating with the ship's pulse. Together, they anchored the impossible. The Aegis Eternum's engines roared. Silver rivers bent violently around its hull, collapsing into a singularity of light. Dimensional drive engaged. The ship plunged into the fracture. Reality shattered. Jace's mind was no longer his own. He was falling through endless corridors of light, each wall lined with memories, not his wars fought in alien skies. Earth's last defenders screaming as their world burned. Voices of children laughing in languages long dead. Flashes tore through him. Earth cities burning, the sky ripped apart by Dominion fleets. A scientist whispering into the darkness, if they mock us, let them mock ghosts. Soldiers dying in silence, guarding this hidden ark. A vast council of humans staring at a map of the galaxy, knowing it would be their last. Each vision carved into his brain, 1,000 lives forced into one fragile skull. He screamed again, his voice raw, blood spraying from his lips. Serenia's voice pierced the storm. Not word song, a high, trembling melody filled with sorrow and defiance. Her glow blazed brighter, wrapping around him in waves of light. Her presence anchored him, kept him from splintering into madness. Hold, she cried. Stay with me, Jace. The Dominion ships tried to follow. Through cracks in reality, Jace glimpsed their forms stretching, breaking, torn apart by forces they could not control. Screams echoed through coms before their signals dissolved into static. One by one, they were devoured by the collapsing rift. The Aegis plunged deeper, carried by impossible currents. Every second was agony. Jace's body convulsed, veins bulging, black against his skin. His mind felt like glass ready to shatter. But Serenia's glow did not falter. She wrapped her essence around him, her song weaving threads of stability through the chaos. Still, her strength was fading. Her last words before she collapsed against her console. If you fall, I fall with you. Then silence. The storm ended as suddenly as it began. The Aegis Eternum burst into real space, tearing through the fabric of the galaxy like a newborn star. A blinding flare spread across the void, scattering nearby asteroids like dust. When the light faded, the ship hung in orbit above a dead, forgotten world. The Dominion ships were gone. The rift had collapsed behind them. They were alone. Jace slumped in the command chair, trembling. His eyes were bloodshot, his skin clammy with sweat. Every nerve in his body screamed with pain. Serenia lay unconscious, her glow dim but steady. She breathed shallowly, her chest rising and falling with effort. Jace tried to speak, but couldn't. His voice was gone, burned away by screams. And then he realized he wasn't alone in his head anymore. Voices whispered at the edge of thought. Thousands of them. The crew who had built the ship, the scientists who had hidden it, the soldiers who had died for it. Their memories had fused into him, their lives carved into his soul. He staggered to his feet, clutching his skull. Neural collapse avoided, the AI intoned. But subject integration has occurred. You are now the living archive of the Aegis. Jace fell to his knees, gasping, eyes wild. What? What does that mean? The AI's voice came with terrible calm. You are no longer singular. You are legion. He looked at Serenia, still unconscious, her hand twitching faintly as if she reached for him even in dreams. A tear slid down his cheek. He wasn't sure if it was his, or if it belonged to someone else inside him now. Outside the viewport, the stars shone cold and sharp. But Jace didn't see them as he once had. He saw roots, wars, dimensions, possibilities, knowledge. No single mind should hold dot and in the distance. He felt it dot the Dominion dot asterisk they were still hunting. And this time, they knew what the Aegis Eternum was. Jace whispered hoarsely, to himself, to Serenia, to the thousands of voices inside his skull. We're not done. Not yet. And then his pupils dilated, his body stiffened, because one of the voices inside him wasn't human dot asterisk voices in the dark. Jace woke to silence, the kind that pressed against the skull, heavy, suffocating. The Aegis Eternum drifted in orbit above. A nameless, dead world. Ash-gray deserts stretched across its surface, seas long dried into scarred plains. The ship's hull still smoked from their flight through the fracture, but it held. For now, he blinked against the dim glow of the bridge. Lights, throat raw, body aching. His head felt swollen, as though 1,000 fists beat against the inside of his skull. And then he heard it. You carry me. A voice, low and cold, reverberating not in his ears, but inside his mind. Jace froze, his breath catching. Who are you? Silence? Then laughter, faint, bitter. You already know. I was there. I fell with you. Memories surged through him unbidden. Dominion ships shattering inside the fracture. Soldiers screaming. Minds burning. Something had slipped through. Something had clung to him when the others were torn apart. He staggered to his feet, gripping the chair. Get out. Asterisk, no. The voice rippled, sharp as glass. You opened the gate. You bled into the current. Now we share the same flesh. A soft groan interrupted the madness. Serenia stirred in her seat, her glow faint but alive. She blinked. Slowly, eyes cloudy with exhaustion. Jace? He rushed to her side, kneeling. I'm here. You made it. Her hand found his, trembling. The ship. Did we survive? Asterisk, he nodded, forcing a smile. We did, but the voice cut across. His thought. Lie to her? She cannot know. He flinched. Serenia noticed. Her gaze sharpened. What is it? He hesitated. The whisper gnawed at him, acidic, hungry. His mouth felt dry, his words heavy. Finally, he managed, The ship changed me. When we crossed, I brought something back. Her glow dimmed with fear. What do you mean, something? Jace pressed her hand to his chest, over his pounding heart. It's in me, Serenia. Voices, not just human. Dominion. Her eyes widened. A parasite. Worse, Jace rasped. It's aware. The ship's alarms wailed. Red lights cascaded. Across the bridge, the AI's voice slicing through the silence. Incoming mass detected. Dominion warship approaching vector. Jace and Serenia staggered to their stations. On the display, a shape emerged from the void. Vast, angular, bristling with weapons. But this was no ordinary Dominion cruiser. Its hull glowed with scars of fracture energy, jagged patterns etched into its surface. At its core pulsed the black sphere, flickering with the same light Jace had seen inside the dimensional rift. Serenia's voice trembled. They built a hunter. Jace's jaw tightened. The Dominion had not just followed them. They had learned from the fracture. They had weaponized it. The warship fired. Beams of condensed fracture energy lanced toward the Aegis. Shields screamed, flickering under the assault. Panels burst, sparks showering across the bridge. Return fire! Jace barked. Serenia's hands danced across controls, releasing torrents of plasma and kinetic rounds. The Aegis roared in response, its cannons tearing into the enemy hull. But the Dominion ship didn't falter. It absorbed the barrage, its black sphere drinking the energy like water. JAC, he swore under his breath. They couldn't win this head-on. And then the voice whispered, I know its heart. Let me guide your hand. He hesitated. The voice was Dominion, a parasite, a predator. To trust it was madness. But the warship's next strike slammed into the hull, tearing through layers of shielding. Systems screamed. Serenia cried out as her console exploded in sparks. They were out of time. Jace clenched his fists. Fine, show me. The world shifted. His vision blurred, overlays of alien schematics burning across his mind. Weak points glowed across the enemy ship, places no human sensor could see. The voice surged through his nerves, guiding his hands across the controls. Weapons locked. Cannons roared. The Aegis fired in perfect sequence, striking not the hull, but resonant nodes buried deep within the warship's fracture core. The Dominion ship screamed, not in sound, but in raw psychic feedback. A wail that tore through Jace's skull and bled into Serenia's bones. The sphere cracked. Energy flared. Uncontrolled, the Dominion hunter imploded. A starburst of black light swallowed it whole, shredding the ship from within. Shards of its hull spun into the void, burning like falling meteors. Silence followed. The Aegis floated among the wreckage, shields sparking, systems limping but alive. JACE gasped, sweat pouring down his face. His hands shook violently as he released. The controls. Serenia stared at him, wide-eyed, her glow pale with shock. That wasn't you, she whispered. He swallowed, throat dry. It was me, and it wasn't. Her hand trembled as she touched his arm. You let it in. He couldn't meet her eyes. His pulse thundered, and inside his skull, the voice purred. Together we are strong. Alone you are nothing. That night, or what passed for night in orbit above the dead world, Jace sat alone in the command chair, staring at the stars. The voices of the humans inside him murmured like ghosts. Memories of Earth, its people, its sacrifice. But beneath them, coiled like a serpent, the Dominion mind waited. Asterisk, asterisk, you feel it, don't you? It whispered, you are no longer human. You are more. With me, you can end them all. Jace pressed his palms to his eyes, fighting the pressure in his skull. I won't be your weapon. The voice chuckled. You already are. Behind him, Serenia stirred in restless sleep, unaware of the shadows crawling through his veins. Jace looked out into the void. His reflection in the viewport shimmered oddly, eyes glowing faintly with silver light. For the first time since he left Earth, Jace wondered if he was still himself at all. Asterisk. The forgotten dimension unleashed, the dead world turned beneath them, its broken surface cold and lifeless. Yet above, the void trembled with life. Dominion ships poured in, one after another, their war engines blazing across the dark. They had found the Aegis Eternum, and this time they came prepared. Dozens of cruisers, carrier beasts with swarms of fighters. At the center, a dreadnought, larger than cities, its body scarred with fracture marks. The Dominion had committed an armada. Serenia stared at the growing storm of warships, her glow pale with dread. They know what you are now. They won't stop. Jace stood at the viewport, fists clenched. His reflection stared back, eyes faintly silver, jaw tight. Inside, the Dominion voice coiled like smoke. Yes, they fear us. Good. Jace shut, his eyes steadying himself. The human voices, faint, fractured memories of engineers, soldiers, medics, whispered too. He could feel their fear, but also their hope. They had built this ship to be more than a weapon. It was a seed of survival. Now it was in his hands. The Dominion fleet moved in, their formation precise, efficient. Fighters screamed ahead, black streaks against the void. The Aegis shuddered as its shields lit under the first wave of fire. Explosions rippled across the hull. Serenia's hands flew across her console. We can't hold against this. Even with fracture fire, their numbers. Then we don't fight their way, Jace muttered. His gaze locked on the dimensional core deep within the ship. The ancient human technology pulsed like a heart, its energy tethered to the fracture itself. Voice inside him purred. Unleash it. Tear the veil. Show them fear. Jace's chest tightened. If I do, I might not come back. Serenia turned, her eyes burning with pain. If you don't, none of us will. The Dominion dreadnought loomed, its shadow blotting. Out the stars dotted open fire, a beam of fracture energy wide as a continent. Jace seized the controls. His mind stretched, merging with the ship's core. For an instant, he was no longer Jace, no longer flesh, but something greater. He was the Aegis, and the Aegis responded. The hull shimmered. Space around the ship bent, twisted. The beam struck and vanished, swallowed into a yawning void that opened like a wound in reality. A fracture. The Dominion fleet reeled, their formation faltering as gravity tore at them. Ships collided, fighters spiraled out of control. Jace's body convulsed, his voice half his own, half the Dominion's. We are not prey. We are the storm. The battle turned into chaos. The Aegis moved like no ship had ever moved, slipping through folds of space, reappearing inside enemy formations, its cannons tearing ships apart from within. Every strike Jace made carried the weight of the voices. Inside him, human ingenuity guided the weapons. Dominion knowledge revealed their weak points. Together, they carved the armada to pieces. But every second the fracture pulsed through him, Jace felt himself slipping. The Dominion mind pushed harder. More. Give me control, and none will stand against us. Jace gritted his teeth, sweat streaming down his face. No, not you. Not alone. On the bridge, Serenia watched him in horror. His body flickered with faint silver light, his movements inhumanly precise. She knew what was happening. He wasn't just controlling the ship. The ship was consuming him. Her hand hovered near the emergency kill switch, a control that would sever his neural link, saving his mind but leaving the ship helpless. If she pressed it, he might live. But they would all die. If she didn't. She might lose him forever. Tears welled in her eyes. Jace, please hold on. The Dominion dreadnought advanced again, scarred but unbroken. Its core pulsed violently, preparing another catastrophic strike. The human voices in Jace's head rose in unison, louder than ever before. Engineers shouting equations, soldiers screaming battle cries, medics praying for survival. They were not echoes. They were fragments of humanity, preserved inside the Aegis. Jace's heart surged. He wasn't alone. He opened himself, not to the Dominion, but to all of them. The Dominion voice shrieked in rage. No, you are mine. Jace roared, every fiber of his being burning. I am human. The Aegis Eternum awakened. Its dimensional core blazed like a newborn star. Space around it fractured, not in destruction, but in creation. Threads of light weaved across the void. forming a lattice of impossible geometry. The dreadnought fired, but the beam dissolved against the lattice, absorbed and redirected. Jace's voice echoed across the bridge, filled with both pain and end. Power, you mocked us. You hunted us. But you never understood. The lattice expanded, enveloping the Dominion fleet. Serenia shielded her eyes as the void itself screamed. Asterisk, and then it was over. The lattice collapsed, folding space in a single, brilliant flash. Where the Dominion armada had stood, there was nothing. Not wreckage, not fire. Only silence. The Aegis drifted alone, scarred but whole. Jace slumped in the command chair, gasping, his body trembling with exhaustion. The silver glow in his eyes flickered, then dimmed. Serenia rushed to him, catching his hand. Jace, stay with me. He managed a weak smile. Still here. Still me? Inside his mind, the Dominion voice was silent. Whether destroyed or buried, he didn't know. But the human voices, the fragments of the past, lingered, warm, steady. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. For hours, they floated in silence. The stars peaceful once more. Finally, Serenia spoke, her voice soft. What now? Jace looked at the endless void, the lattice pattern still faintly shimmering across his vision. We rebuild, he said quietly. Humanity isn't gone. Not while I'm breathing. Not while this ship still flies. She leaned her forehead against his shoulder, her glow steady. Then I'll stand with you, whatever comes. Jace closed his eyes, exhaustion pulling at him. But beneath it, a fire burned. The Dominion had unleashed their worst. They had mocked. Humanity dismissed them as relics of a dead world. But humanity had endured, and now the galaxy knew the truth. Earth was gone. But humanity was not, and one day they would return. Asterisk.